Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Pabs, a racing VTuber and an artist, and today we're going to be doing another art fight piece. Yeah, that's right, we're 6 days into art fight now. I've made 2 pieces so far, which is a good number. I am happy with that number. I am proud of that number. It will probably rise, given that today is an art fight stream. So it's probably not going to be the all-time high. I think the highest amount I've ever made is still in like my first year of art fight. Oh man, I really went nuts at that time. But today we're going to be working on a character called Petrichor by HexLord. So let's go ahead and go into the working screen. Alright. There we go. Let me shrink myself down a little bit more. I like these art fight streams because you guys ever hardly get to see my stubby little legs. But yeah, I kind of have to show off some of the games to kind of like really show off the Team Bloom spirit. By which I mean just this ratty ass PNG I made of a jersey. I don't know what you call these things still. I don't know if they're called like bibs, if they're called jerseys. I call them bibs, but somebody said that's really weird. So I'm guessing that's probably not like a common term for them. But yeah, this is a character. Petrichor is very interesting. It reminds me a lot of those like tokusatsu heroes. So let's get in the 3D model so we can start posing. Okay, so I think they're supposed to be a martial artist, so I think definitely like on the buffer side. Very kind of masculine outline, I think. Well, we can change it up a little bit as we go along as well. So I was thinking because they have this really cool cloak thing right down here, we could make it so that like they're taking off the cloak in a very dramatic way, you know, kind of like in the middle of an alley or something. I don't know if I know how to draw alleys. I don't know. All the bad shit on Earth seems to happen in alleyways. I mean, Batman's parents got killed there. People get mugged there all the time. You know, I feel like in terms of just like bad places to be, at least in a fictional world. Being in an alleyway is just kind of like how do you call it? It's like a fast track to getting your ass kicked. Walking hurriedly. Walk with an umbrella. Ooh, this one could be good. All right, hang on. I know how to do this thing. All right, so we got this other arm kind of like rearing back like this. No, having it like straight out like that is weird. Oh yeah, this is the one. I think like maybe from here would be a cool angle. Okay, and then maybe we can have this arm just kind of wasn't there like a thing where you could like, yeah, character parts. Wasn't there something like that you could change around? I don't think I have any of those though. I haven't downloaded any from the Clip Studio asset store. Alright, then if that's the case, then maybe we can just lean the shoulder back even a little bit more. So that it's visible. No. Maybe we can go a little more extreme even. Now if that's the case, maybe we can bring it forward. Yeah, I think that's gonna be much better. Kind of bringing this part up a little bit. Just having this hand be kind of relaxed. And just kind of straight out like that. How do I, hand gesture? A fist, maybe? Like I said, they are supposed to be a martial artist. No, I think just a relaxed hand is good. Okay. Yeah, so the kind of coat's travel path, so to speak, would be like this. Just like that. Okay, cool. Then from there... Oh, yeah, we could just kind of start drawing, huh? I don't know. I kind of want to do some more stuff with the pose. Maybe just zooming in a little bit more? And then also having them look kind of straight ahead would be better as well. What's smelling? Boiled rice, I suppose. How you doing, Leov? I don't know. What would my stream smell like? I feel like they just smell like like the inside of a bag of rice. I don't know. I don't even remember what that's supposed to smell like. I know that like when I open up my rice bags, they have like a certain kind of like ricey smell to them. Mango? Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah, a nice little mango smell. Yeah, like one of those soap bars from Lush. That would make sense though. I do have like a very summery theme behind me, so I feel like a nice, like a mango flavor wouldn't be out of the question. Alright, I like that. Like mango sticky rice. Mango sticky rice does exist, that's true. Man, let me tell you, the best rice I've ever eaten is from this one place that I went to on like this excursion, I guess you could call it, with my parents. Basically, we went to a kind of like mountain town, and one of the attractions there was that basically you could kind of, you know, the way they cooked rice, they had a lot of bamboo there, so the way they cooked rice was that they just like got a bamboo stick, stuffed it with rice and water, and then just like put it into a fire, and then when it came out, the rice was perfectly cooked. And for some reason, that was like so tasty. I don't know why it was so tasty. I like, there, like maybe it's like the smoke was also a component of it. Like I don't know the food science behind it, but it was like the tastiest rice I've ever eaten. Could also be that I was like tired from a hike. You know, they did live on like a mountain town, so we were hiking for a lot of it. So you know, being tired makes everything taste better. Like, you're never gonna eat as good as when you're done swimming and you eat something, because like, especially if it's like a hot food, it is such a good feeling. Like, if you've been swimming, right, and you step out of the pool and you're ready to eat something, and you eat like something nice, piping hot and everything, it's just so good. You're telling me this, but I'm here trying to figure out what the fuck excursion. Excursion is just like a field trip, basically. It's like a family field trip. I don't know why I call it that. I know that it's definitely like not a common way of saying it, but like for some reason, like it's basically a family field trip. I think I got it from like a Doraemon movie that I watched as a kid. You know, yeah. Well, usually when you say excursion, you think more pip helmets and deep jungle, but like, you know, it could also just be a family field trip. It doesn't have to be that complicated. Okay, just drop all this on here. Come on. Smooth. There we go. Man. Recently I've been watching Jerma play through Saints Row 3. He has like this 5-hour long, what do you call it? This 5-hour long VOD of him just playing through the first few hours of Saints Row 3. And it is taking, I don't know why, but I don't want to replay that game, but at the same time it's really kind of itching for, it's really kind of like, I really want to play that game again. Doraemon is so much fun, oh my god. Man, just being like a 5-year-old Latino kid and just having like 16 different my experience, I grew up a lot with Doraemon because for some reason there were a lot of Doraemon DVDs available where I lived. 100% legal, I'm sure. And I just kept watching them over and over, and it was so much fun. I love that series. Okay, so kind of I really like this art style because it's not exactly like, I wouldn't exactly call it pixel art, because it's, if you can actually see that it's not exactly pixel based, or I mean maybe that's like because of the oh no, it is pixel based. Yeah, okay, it is pixel based, but it's almost like hexagonal in the ways that it's built up. I love that. It gives it such good texture. Yeah, scrunkly, exactly. It reminds me a little bit of like that Slade character from Teen Titans. Yeah, I don't know why, but the whole kind of vibe is very kind of close to that. I remember that Raph taught me like the word Mordhau, which means murder stroke, and I remember calling it the death stroke, and people had to correct me like, no, that's the guy from Teen Titans. That's Slade. Man, still, like, the idea that somebody would call a certain strike the murder stroke is really funny to me. Like, in this kind of whole kind of field where beating the crap out of someone is kind of like the plan du jour, the fact that you have a specific move that is called the death stroke is like it's very funny to me for some reason. Like, yeah, I know that a lot of these are supposed to murder people, but use this one if you really want to ruin somebody's day. It just seems very, very silly. Maybe even a higher up is good. I know this is supposed to be like an eye visor, but like maybe even like having it be higher up would be interesting. Yeah, because you can actually see that I've actually made the helmet a little too short. Like this actually goes maybe not past the ears. I was gonna say, would this go past the ears? No, I would say that it wouldn't. But if that is the case, then I actually need to bring this visor kind of a little bit further up to kind of be in no. I think like here it looks good. Yeah, I think here is the place for it. Because higher up it wouldn't make any more sense than it already doesn't, right? Like it's got to be kind of like at one specific point. Let's see, kind of thickening this line up a little bit. Okay, maybe this way. Up. No, something about this doesn't seem right. I think it's because like I haven't like, hang on. I think it's because I haven't quite committed to the helmet kind of like just kind of wrapping around the face like this. I think if I do that, it'll be much better. Oh yeah, if you want to hear something really bad today, oh goodness. All right, so I recently found out that that French's, the ketchup company, has recently partnered with an ice cream manufacturer to make the Frenchsicle. And if you think that that's already kind of a bad start to it, you wait. Yes. So basically they've made a ketchup flavored popsicle, which is bad. I don't like that. You know, I try not to get mad at novelty foods anymore because I recognize that it's just kind of like a cheap cash grab in a lot of the cases. I shouldn't be so mad at it. But this is one of those things where I'm like, this is just a waste of resources. Hope it's not too spicy. Yeah, I hope so too. Apparently it's supposed to be like Canada only, so if I do find some in grocery stores, I'll let you know. Alexa, add plan to my calendar. Don't go near grocery stores for the next 13 months. All right, thank you. Was my mic on for that? I'm just kidding. I wouldn't own an Alexa. What do I look like? A suburbanite? Actually, for all I know, I do look like a suburbanite. Technically, I am a suburbanite. I grew up in suburbs for like a lot of my life, so that would make sense. Well, kind of like pseudo-suburbs, really. I was still kind of in the city, but like not super deep into the city. It helped that there was a good metro system where I grew up the most, so... Okay. Yes? Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so we have this huge yellow plate just kind of situated here. Okay, so I think first thing that would be a good idea to do is to maybe make a mock-up of the cloak getting whipped off. So, okay, so we got the hood. So so obviously it would kind of start around here, and it would have to kind of like go like this almost. Okay, so so because I'm kind of picturing them taking it off from the shoulder. Okay, so this would be the hood. And then it's kind of like bunched up back here for the kind of shoulder bit. There we go. No, that's like not... That's not going to give it the right look. Hang on. Because it kind of like needs to warp around like this. Oh wait, maybe this will work. Yeah, alright. Okay. I think I've got it. I think I've got an idea for how this is gonna look. I see. Okay, then from there... God, another disturbing thing that I have found out today was that apparently Funko Pops have been around since 1998. Which means that Funko Pops are at least a little bit younger than I am. Which is a very disturbing thought. I don't know why, but like the idea that these plastic abominations not only are going to outlive me, but they've like kind of like cut me off, so to speak. Like they've like caught up before I was born is sincerely disturbing. Weren't you born in the 2000s? No. I was a 90s kid, technically. I mean, yeah, the tail end of the 90s, but it's nevertheless a 90s kid. You're not gonna gaslight me into thinking that I was born in the 2000s. You've tried it before, and it's not gonna try and work now. Unfortunately for you, I got 9 hours of sleep today, so I'm highly I'm not as susceptible to wiles and trickery as I usually am. Sounds unnatural. Sounds unnatural. Yeah. Gen Z. Yeah. Oh yeah, but you haven't you eaten yet? I did actually eat like a decent lunch today. I had myself like a couple of egg sandwiches and a samosa. There's recently this place that I've been really liking near where I work. That's got like rice bowls, salad bowls, all kinds of good stuff. So I've been frequenting that place, and it's much cheaper than I expected, to be perfectly honest. And I went to Subway's the other day, and the whole thing cost me like cost me $20 for a foot long in a combo, which seriously jaded me. I don't know what I'm supposed to believe anymore. I don't know if Subway's is supposed to be like decently like I always pictured Subway's as being like fairly affordable, but like I don't know if that's been the case. I don't know if that's like always been the perception of it. That might have just been like my limited understanding of it. Subway's always been kind of expensive. Yeah, I'm starting to feel that now. To be fair, I don't often eat there. It's only just now that I've recently noticed just how much. Like I was like, okay, friggin' one sandwich, two s'mores cookies and a soda drink. Well, how much could that cost? And they said $20, and my jaw nearly hit the floor. Friggin', what this city needs is one of like those is our own version of that grilled cheese guy. If you've never seen the grilled cheese guy, there's been a picture on the internet going around of what is probably not a real food truck. I want to believe it. I want to 30,000? Yeah. Anyway, there's this picture that's been going around of what I want to believe is a real food truck, where it's basically just one dude slinging grilled cheese sandwiches for $1 each. No change allowed, no... So like he doesn't give you change, he doesn't give you a drink, he doesn't give you anything. It's just apparently if you ask him for a slice of tomato, he will punch you in the mouth. Like it's that kind of thing. And yeah, you've seen that. Yeah, like I said, it's been kind of going around the internet, so it doesn't surprise me that you've seen it. But I think like my city needs like a version of that to kind of like just. I don't know, maybe put like the rest of the restaurants around here in their place. Wasn't there an actual food truck? Like I said, I think it's a real food truck. I so dearly wish it's real, but I cannot guarantee that it is real. Like it might be like an art project that somebody put together for like a bit. But I so desperately want to believe there is a real angered grilled cheese artisan who just makes grilled cheeses all day, and if you ask them for a tomato slice, they'll like throw you to the dogs. I am friggin' struggling with this little plate here. Hang on. I think I made it too thick. I think that's a problem. But yeah. The other day I saw like somebody post a picture of the most perfect pile of grilled cheeses that I've ever seen. Like you saw these and you thought to yourself, man, I want a grilled cheese so bad right now. Because they were like very evenly cooked. They like you know they used the mayonnaise when they were frying those bad boys up. This is subliminal messages. I think it's working. The subliminal messaging is working. Yes. You want to eat grilled cheese. You want to eat a sandwich so bad. I don't care if you have lactose intolerance, by the way. Yeah. I mean, for real, don't eat cheese if you have lactose intolerance. So I cannot take responsibility for that. You can't stop me? Well, that's true. Yeah, physically I can't stop you. Physically I can't stop a lot of things. I can eat a cheese. I mean, are you lactose intolerant though? I think you are. If I remember correctly, I think you might be lactose intolerant. Yeah. Okay. Go live your best / worst life, I suppose. As your friend, as your doctor, I cannot, in good conscience, recommend this course of action. But as your friend, I am telling you to tear up that grilled cheese sandwich. Alright. We got this glove here, which is kind of like snugly fitted onto the rest of the wrist, it seems. Okay, then they've got that kind of armor plating on top of there. Is that okay? No, that would kind of just pass on over here. And I am so glad that Ref Loki taught me to draw armor, because I am... Nowadays, I'm able to think about and conceptualize it a little bit better, and I think that makes it easier to draw. Like before, I would have been like, is this right? Is this right? But now I know that like you need more kind of wiggle room for the wrist and the plates, even if it is just like kind of an armored, if it is an armored glove. Okay, there we go. But yeah, anyway, back to the original topic, which I completely lost track of, as is the norm on this channel. Funko Pops, been around since 1998, and cheese? We'll get to that part. Actually, I don't know if we will. I don't know too much about cheese, to be perfectly honest. I know that it's actually quite difficult to make. I know that it's quite difficult to make cheese well, because it's just it is like a very sensitive process. If you guys have ever read the manga Silver Spoon, they actually go into it a little bit, into how to make cheese, and it is a very involved process. To the point that you can't eat fermented foods when you make cheese, because the bacteria in the fermented foods is going to infect the cheese, and it'll go rotten, or it won't ferment well, it won't age well. I also remember that my parents one time watched this Netflix series called Salt, Fat, Heat, or something like that. And it was basically this lady just going around doing like food science at random places. It seemed very interesting. I do wish I would have watched it before I canceled my Netflix subscription. Well, I mean, I could probably still watch it one way or another. But anyway, the main point of it is that apparently in very well-aged cheese, not like the crap you find at supermarkets or anything, but like in well-aged cheese, it actually creates... You need a linky. I can find it on my own. Don't you worry. I got my resources. Anyway, what was I going on about? Right, cheese. So for much better aged cheese, what ends up happening is that they actually build up like small crystalline structures within the cheese that hold this kind of, I think it was some kind of like flavor, like some kind of specialized fat or something else, something along those lines, that basically made it so that it had like a very strong kind of umami flavor, I think, or something like that. Basically, it had like weird flavor crystals within the cheese that you could actually taste and feel kind of going off in your mouth. I've never had like really, really good cheese. I've always been a supermarket cheese kind of type of rice bag. So I've never been able to notice that kind of thing, but it makes sense though, right? Like it makes sense that eventually cheese would... Actually, what the hell am I talking about? Cheese? There's no way that cheese develops crystals. Like that's not something that you naturally believe occurs. I've had that wheel of cheese. Ooh, nice. Yeah, one that I really want to try is actually those huge kind of like... I forgot their names. But there's this type of Nordic cheese where the kind of custom to eat it is that you slice it in half, stick it into the oven. Ooh, right, tasty. Yeah. The one I'm thinking about is probably similar to that. Basically, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to use half a cheese wheel, and you mount it on this kind of special kind of dishware, this kind of special appliance, which has a huge kind of moon-shaped holder here for the cheese, and it has a kind of death ray heat blaster on this other side, which is kind of just hitting the cheese full force. So you get this nice melty layer of cheese on this part here, which you scrape off with a spatula onto a slice of bread. And it looks so goddamn tasty. Yeah, something that I've always wanted to try as well is a rarebit, which I think is a type of open-faced sandwich with melted cheese on top. Yeah, Welsh rarebit, I believe is the name of it. Not the cheese, the sandwich that I'm thinking of. I still don't remember the cheese that I'm talking about. I'd have to look it up on Wikipedia or something. When I draw kind of characters like this who have these kinds of suits together, I'm so hungry now, but I'm also too tired to get up. That's like the death spiral, isn't it? Like, you know, you think about you think past like there's a timeline, right, where point A is like you think, oh hey, I'm kind of hungry. And, you know, let's say like this part is that you've died of hunger. Somewhere in the middle here is what is kind of like a nightmare zone, where you're too hungry to get up, but you're hungry and you want to eat something, but you're too tired to get up. So you just kind of like lay there for a while until you muster the willpower to kind of get your body moving. Talking about something, right? Whenever I see kind of characters like this who are vigilantes or have kind of almost like homemade looking suits, it reminds me a lot of this thing in Japan where if you guys know Power Rangers or stuff like that, you know, tokusatsu kind of things, the thing is, right, that they don't only have like the TV shows. Funko Pops, no. No, they don't just have like TV shows. Sometimes if a series is big enough, they'll essentially make rental versions of the costumes. Or, you know, not even rental versions, like the studio itself will kind of organize a live show using the costumes where you'll basically it's basically like a concert for it. What happens is that you kind of go there and they basically act out an episode kind of live. Which from what I understand is a lot of fun. Now, kind of apropos of that, there is also a thing called a local hero. So you know how in Japan, right, almost everything has a mascot? You know, like a toilet paper roll company will have their own mascot, a town will have their own mascot, a prefecture will have their own mascot, that kind of thing. Some cities, in lieu of adopting a mascot, will actually create what's called a local hero. So it's like a kind of almost like Power Ranger suit, kind of character that's supposed to kind of do these live shows, kind of, you know, make media appearances and all that to promote the town, to, you know, just be a cool dude. I've always thought that's been a very cool concept. I've always liked that quite a lot. know there's also some local heroes that are made to promote a specific cause and not just like a town. So for example, I know there's one that's supposed to be for remembering to take your medication, I think. Which again, very cool. I like that concept. I like the idea that you can have like a hero who kind of stands up for something. But it's also something much more grounded in reality than just random TV show stuff. I like that idea. I think it's cool. There we go. Alright, nice. Oh yeah, speaking of weird... Going back to that French popsicle thing, speaking of weird food products, have you guys heard of that EDM artist Marshmello? I actually feel like I don't know... Even though I like EDM, I don't know that guy at all. I've heard some of his stuff. I've heard like bits and pieces of his stuff, but I don't know like what his deal is. I don't know what it is with... I don't know... I think it was probably started by Daft Punk, but there's some kind of trend among more kind of mainstream techno artists. And I understand the full irony of me saying this, to hide their faces as part of their persona. So, you had deadmau5, you had Daft Punk, you have Marshmello, who they basically... And this is especially prevalent for EDM artists for some reason, again, likely because of Daft Punk's influence. Where it's just like a bunch of dudes who just never show their faces and just always have their helmet. I've always thought that's kind of funny. And again, the irony does not escape me that as a VTuber, I'm essentially doing the same thing, except that instead of sick beats, I just make cool drawings of dudes taking off their capes. Well, not exclusively, but at the moment. Here. But yeah, anyway, apparently Marshmello has recently partnered with Coca-Cola to make a him-flavored soda. Actually, I don't know Marshmello's pronouns. It's probably he, him. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably he, him. But yeah, apparently they're making a Marshmello the artist, not Marshmello the flavor, marshmallow soda. I do kind of wonder what a marshmallow flavored soda would taste like. It probably wouldn't be very good, all things told, but I kind of want to see what it would taste like. I actually made a marshmallow pie one time. When I was basically obsessed with the idea after I read about it somewhere. And I kind of like thought, oh man, I can't do that, because I read that the recipe required like actual pure cornstarch to make the filling. Until I realized that I had a jar full of maraschino cherries, and the stuff in there is basically pure cornstarch anyway. So after I finished eating all the cherries, I just took the stuff that was in the maraschino cherry jar, and I used that as a kind of basis for the component, which used the cornstarch, the corn syrup, I'm sorry. And it worked. To this day, I cannot remember what that pie actually tasted like, but I do remember that I made it. And I do remember being very proud of myself for that. It's not about... Some people think that cooking is about actually making the food. It's not about that. It's about the journey. Got these two parts here. So what we're going to do is actually kind of put the collar over the hood, which makes sense. Here we go. Okay, then from there we have the kind of poncho part? The poncho component, the ponchonant, if you will. Actually, don't do that, it sounds weird. The ponchonant. And, okay, that's gonna kind of go on like that. There we go. It is weird to me that that marshmallow soda isn't being flavored after a marshmallow. Like, you'd feel that that's the kind of natural idea, right? But apparently it's like watermelon flavored. Which is even weirder than if it was marshmallow flavored. Like, if it was marshmallow flavored... Like, was making the marshmallow flavored soda too hard? Is that why? I don't know. Maybe it would have had too much cornstarch or something and the FDA wouldn't let it slide, so they just gave him a random watermelon flavor they had lying around. I am fully willing to believe that's what happened. Yeah, apparently there's a Coca-Cola world in Atlanta, Georgia. I think I went there one time with my family, but I imagine it's got access to all kinds of weird flavors of stuff. Okay. That. There we go. I've been to Coca-Cola World? Oh, really? What was it like? I think I was too young to remember what it was like. I remember it being weirdly loud. And there were like a lot of flavors, some of which were just hideously bad. It's a pretty neat, mostly the history of the company. That would make sense. Somehow what I remember the most from my trip isn't the binge drinking of the soda. It isn't the kind of history or something. I think there was like a 4D theater. I don't remember anything about that. And then they end the flavors of the world. And in the end, flavors of the world. Huh. What I remember most about this trip is that I was like standing next to this like blonde white kid who was, I think, with his older sister, just kind of standing around looking at the exhibits. And he called one of the cars there a Cruiser Bruiser, and I don't know why, but I just remember that really vividly. I don't know why. I cannot for the life of me explain why, but I just do. I do wish I knew more about how my brain worked, because I feel a lot of things would make more sense. Maybe a few things wouldn't, but I feel like at least a couple things would make more sense if I knew how my brain worked. In detail, I mean, I kind of already understand how it works. You know, it's gray matter up there. You got the neurons, you got the electrical pulses. You got the low memory, you got the high memory, etc. It's not that complicated of a situation. At least mine isn't. I don't. Just kidding. That being said, I am kind of a simple guy. You know, I enjoy the simple pleasures. I enjoy bread. I enjoy bread. Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. I like bread. I kind of feel like this would almost have a more natural curve to it. Kind of like that. Compared to this, harder polygon that I've kind of given it. then from there we got the kind of yellow line that's kind of going around the rim of everything. Alright, I'm gonna need this to follow the natural curve of my hand. Probably gonna vanish the layer below as well. And from there we're just gonna have to readjust. Oh yeah, do you guys remember Radio Shack? Yeah, here's a blast from the past. Y'all remember Radio Shack? And I hardly remember Radio Shack, and I used to love going there. I used to love seeing all the weird peripherals that existed for everything. You know, my parents would be like trying to buy a charger cable for their phone, and you know, because this was the 2000s, you'd have to go through like 15 different chargers or some shit. And meanwhile, I'd be like, huh, an AC-DC connector for a DC port. How about that? I don't know if that's a real thing that exists. I don't think it is. I feel like it probably is. You'd probably need a much bigger adapter for it though. But apparently Radio Shack, of all things, right, has recently been reincarnated as a... And this is mainly on Twitter, mind you. But apparently the brand of Radio Shack has recently been kind of reincarnated on Twitter as a... It's difficult to describe. It's like... Imagine the most annoying fucking entrepreneur asshole that you could meet in university. And imagine he got like he got a hold of like a Twitter account or something. With all the kind of awful... You know how like some companies try to be like edgy and shit to kind of fit in? They're basically going for that idea. I think they're kind of trying to be edgy and the shit and stuff, but it's not working out. They are also crypto fiends. I should mention that, which adds like a whole new layer of bad to this. It would be bad enough if it was just like the weirdly aggressive persona, but no, they also sell crypto now. And I just don't know how to feel about any of that. Like I said, I never had particularly strong feelings about Radio Shack, but I feel like this is just super weird. In my 2022 bingo, I certainly did not have Radio Shack reincarnates as a crypto bro on Twitter. I think they tried to hit on Wendy's as well, the brand Twitter for Wendy's. God, that's really where this all started, didn't it? Fucking... Some dudes saw the Wendy's mascot. They wanted it, to draw horny fan art of it, and then it suddenly became normal to humanize it. It's super weird that happened, by the way. It's super weird that was a thing and that I was around for it. Alright, hang on. Something about this isn't making sense. Oh, I see. I understand now. I understand what's going on. Gotta get rid of this part here. Like that. There we go. Man, I remember I remember a while back that what was I talking about? I remembered something and then I suddenly forgot it. Maybe I should work less hours at work. Okay, so we need like to splice these lines together. I think that's what we gotta do. There's never a good way to kind of lead a line like this into the rest of the cave, right? Like, the kind of vanishing point for this other part of the cave is very difficult to perceive. I'm seeing my buddy here. I keep getting Steam pop-ups for a buddy of mine trying to play Worms WMD. I think he's trying to start it up like one of those old cars. It's always funny when that happens. There's a slight sense of Schadenfreude for sure, but it's always funny when you randomly see your friend on Steam just starting the same game over and over and over, and you feel a slight sympathy for them because you know that they're trying out a modification or something. And it's just not working out for them, or they're trying a game and it's just not working out for them. I remember a buddy of mine noticed when I was trying to start up The Sims 3 over and over and over, and he was like, I just saw you start it up like 15 times in a row. I forgot who that was, but they did see me land. They were like, I saw you trying to start it up like 15 times in a row, are you good? I've only ever used a motorized lawnmower one time. And I think that was the second to last time when I visited my parents. Oh, and there he goes again. The second to last time I visited my parents, my dad was sick of paying for gardeners. So he convinced me to go, well, he didn't have to convince me. I kind of wanted to see how it went down. He took me to Home Depot with him to go pick up a lawnmower. You can rent lawnmowers at Home Depot. You can rent a lot of stuff at Home Depot. And we rented ourselves a little motorized lawnmower. And had an absolutely awful time trying to handle it. We were sweating. It was hot. It was very difficult to start it up. It was just an awful experience. And after that, my dad was like, yeah, I'm just gonna pay the freaking gardeners. This is not worth it. Yeah, I've never understood kids who are made to mow the lawn as a kind of household chore, because my house has never really had lawns, so to speak. They were either we didn't have like a front porch, so to speak, or what was there was basically mostly dirt and moss. Which was the case for a place where I lived for like 5 years. Yeah, we basically had we did technically have a front yard, but it was more like an entrance to the building, to the kind of duplex we lived in. And boy, let me tell you, moss just friggin' loved to grow there. I remember I tried to like tear it up one time so I could plant seeds in there or something. First of all, foolish mistake, because nothing would grow there. And second of all, my second mistake was assuming that the moss wouldn't come back, because it did. Yeah, that place was I think like it was infected with like water from the pipes or something. It was just like a very dirty kind of zone. So what ended up happening is that I kept trying over and over to just tear up the moss and try to grow something, but the ground was too shallow and too inhospitable for anything that wasn't moss. After a while, I just kind of gave up, but still, it's really funny that happened. I was just out going at it with a trowel like, why won't you die? And the moss is just like, I'm invincible, you cannot kill what was never even alive. I don't know, is moss fungus? I don't think it is. I don't think it's the same thing, actually. I should drink some water. Oh yeah. I recently found out that apparently they're making electric vehicle Hummers now. I've probably seen a Hummer, but I don't ever remember seeing a Hummer. You know, like I think like at one point I was like, oh, thank you for the hydrate bunny. Tumblr post about mushrooms. Yeah. Tell me the name of God, you fungal piece of shit. You... Death and decay is also a state of living or something like that. I'm not scared of you! Something like that. That post is a classic. I hope I run into it again one of these days. Anyway, I was thinking about something. Right, Hummers. I think I've just never lived in an area where I see a lot of Hummers, but I think, like, I've definitely seen one at some point, I think. I visited Texas enough to know that what a Hummer looks like, I think. Actually, are Hummers popular in Texas? I don't imagine they are. I hear that they got very poor gas mileage, so it wouldn't make sense for that kind of environment where it's literally, if you don't have a car, good luck getting anywhere, dumbass. Truck nuts as well. That's something that I've always heard about, but I've never actually had the displeasure of seeing myself. Yeah. If you don't know what truck nuts are, essentially they're a little accessory for cars that makes it look like your pickup truck has a pair of testicles. Funny thing about that is that there's actually quite a bit of a history about like who invented truck nuts. Like I remember listening to it on a podcast one time. Like it has been like a whole fucking thing. So basically, in a bout of what I'm gonna call cosmically hilarious serendipity, two dudes in, I think it was the Midwestern Americas. It was probably like somewhere in the Southern Americas, not South America, but the Southern Americas. No, that is what they call the South America, isn't it? Anyway, somewhere in the kind of American South. There we go. Somewhere in the American South, one dude, I remember, went to a car show and saw that somebody had, you know, kind of as a little goof, it's a little joke, maybe, attached a silicone pair of look-alike testicles to the back of his car. And he thought, hey, somebody should mass produce that. And he did. Meanwhile, somewhere in, I think, the West Coast, somewhere around California, I think. I don't really remember where these two chuckle nuts were, but essentially they were like a fair distance away from each other, but basically they got the idea at the same time. Somewhere around in California, I believe, some other dude also saw an identical, not identical, but probably like the same concept at a similar car show, and went like, hey, somebody should mass produce that, and he thought he was the guy to do it. I think what ended up happening is that one of them copyrighted the name, one of them like came up with the name first, but another copyrighted it first, and there was like this whole kerfuffle. But essentially and it is, again, hilarious to me that this is a thing. They were actually some of the first people to get on the e-commerce bandwagon. The bandwagon which naturally had truck nuts on it. But because of the kind of naturally niche nature of the product, they ended up being some of the earliest adopters of e-commerce, of like delivering stuff to your house through the internet. And it's in this way that they figured out, hey, there's another dude who's doing basically the same thing we are on the other side of the country. Let's go pick a fight with them. Long story short, they both set up forums for their respective clientele, and eventually the forums just evolved into them making alt accounts to just roast the shit out of each other, until one random poster was some hero basically went like, you guys, this is fucking stupid. You're not friggin' Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla. You're guys who manufacture look-alike testicles for trucks on the internet. Get over yourselves. And that was enough of a nasty shock for both of them to literally go like, hey, yeah, this is kind of stupid, isn't it? I don't remember how that story ended up. I think they ended up kind of like just agreeing to disagree and just both keeping on selling their respective genitalia-centric car accessory on their own little corner of the United States. Don't you love it when a story ends in friendship? Anyway, I think that's kind of how the story went, basically. But man, to think that they were astroturfing even back then is just hilarious to me. Like, everything really was written on the wall. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of picturing the gloves almost as like motorcycle gear. Anyway, this all started with like a surprise, like the fact that there were electrical vehicle Hummers at all. That really shocked me for some reason. I don't know why I guess I expected the brand to be strong enough that they'd be all macho and be like, huh, environmental destruction is manly. You know, that goes to show kind of the way that electrical vehicles have been picking up. I sincerely do hope that electrical vehicles become fairly commonplace, although I do hope they're dumber than they are now. By dumber, I mean like you don't need like an electrician in the workshop to work on one of them. I feel like that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people don't get them, because if you're friggin', God forbid, if Tesla breaks down in the middle of the road, you can't just call a tow. I mean, I guess you could probably call a tow line, but you're not gonna get that repaired easily. You know, assuming you escape with your life. I've heard that Teslas are kind of a death trap these days, which is ironic because I remember that one of their selling points used to be that they had that because of the way that the engine was placed, they used to have the most crumple zone out of any car on the market. Which, you know, is good if you get into a car crash. But nowadays, because they have so much smart crap on them, they end up being more of a nuisance than anything, especially because they'll like lock the doors if you get trapped inside. I remember that was something that happened. Yeah, don't buy Tesla. Don't buy Tesla. Go get yourself some friggin' generic brand electrical vehicle. Preferably anything that doesn't have a smart screen. A touch screen, I'm sorry. I don't know what a smart screen would look like. I'm guessing somebody's already kind of copyrighted that term. They would, right? But yeah, I don't know when we decided that touch screens needed to be everywhere as well. You know, I feel like we hit like a nice kind of sweet spot with the way we designed ergonomic technology. Because in some cases it is just bad to have to look at what you're doing. You know, so if you're driving a car, and somebody pointed this out on a Tumblr post the other day, if you're driving a car, having like an old school dashboard setup where you have knobs which have distinct shapes and like feelable kind of parts to them is much more safe than having a touchscreen on there. Because, you know, if you have a touchscreen, you have to look away from the wheel, you have to take your eyes off the road for at least half a second or something to, I don't know if we're going to adjust the air conditioning, but if you have a proper button array, then that problem is no longer as relevant because you can just go off of muscle memory. You can go off your sense of touch rather than, you know, having to look, at least after a little while. I guess you could also do that for touchscreens, but I feel like it's also kind of a danger. You know, I feel like even though you could make the argument that, yeah, you can do that on touchscreens also, I feel like it's not, the danger is much less prevalent in a scenario where you just don't have a touchscreen. Not to mention, it's just kind of expensive. Did you know that cars have been getting heavier and heavier? Yeah, that's not just because of like crumple zone nonsense and such. I should call the crumple zone nonsense because it is actually like scientifically proven to be super important to surviving car crashes, having crumple zone. If you've never heard that term before, crumple zone basically means that your car's frame. So say you have a car, right? And say it's going into a wall really hard. Now, would you rather that your car is full of engine components, and you're here, right? Now, would you rather that your car was full of engine components, which would be naturally pushed into you once it hits the wall, or would you rather that your car's engine components were just kind of back here, and you had all this extra space to kind of just ram into the wall and kind of cushion the impact for you? Yeah, you'd want the latter, right? Unless you had a death wish or something. We're not here to talk about that. But the idea is that you'd have that kind of metal space in your car to absorb a lot of the shock for you by kind of crumpling up. Hence the name crumple space or crumple zone. Hang on. I gotta bring this like way back. There we go. They have a diamond. They have like a diamond shape on their belt. How are we for time? About an hour in. Perfect. All right. Oh, hang on. Yeah, car engineering has always been something that's very fascinating for me as somebody who doesn't know anything about cars. Right? Because, you know, you talk to car guys and they're like, oh yeah, this car is ugly as sin. Oh, this car's the worst. Or, blah, blah, blah. And you look at the cars and they look basically identical. Right? I'm not very good at telling apart cars. I don't know a lot about cars. I know a little bit about motorcycles, but I know even less about cars. I just don't. I guess it's a very subjective thing. Obviously, everybody's gonna have different tastes, but I've always felt that I've never understood cars as kind of like a source of entertainment, or as a source of fascination, I suppose. You know, I've never been a car guy. That being said, when people talk about stuff like cars engineering and stuff like that, that's at least something that I can kind of understand. Not because I'm particularly well versed in it, but because of it is just like hard numbers. You know, not just kind of like two dudes having a pissing contest over their car brands. It's much more objective, and that I can get behind. That I can understand. Plate their leg like that. A bit too wide, hang on. There we go, that's much better. There we go. Here. Yeah, I think this part is supposed to be kind of the straps of the armor. So I feel it would probably start out somewhere around here. Kind of hug the top of the thigh like that. have the pants area just kind of like hanging out there. And same over here. Maybe even a little more. There we go. So that kind of follows the curve a little better. And there we go. But yeah, I've been trying to go to sleep a little bit earlier these days, and for some reason it's working this time. I think it's probably because I don't have nearly as much to worry about it now that my kind of course is temporarily done. Still not looking forward to getting the results from that. If I do get that marginal pass after all, that still means I'm in a little bit of hot water. But that's fine, you know. I'm not even gonna mind. I'm not gonna worry about it until I have to worry about it, you know. That's the best way you can approach these things. It's kind of like that double think thing, right? Like you have to think about it a little bit, but you don't think about it. Okay. There we go. How's that look without the... we'll take a look at how it looks without the model in just a bit. Yeah, these almost remind me kind of leather chaps. Just drink some water. Oh, okay. Crunchy wrists. Crunchy wrists. I think I might get up a little bit too. For some reason, my oops. Okay, my headphones. Yeah, my headphones are okay. Posture check. Thank you, Bunny. Yeah, for some reason I didn't notice that part of my headphone wires got hooked onto. I like how when I got up my model, it was just kind of like dumb mouth, like, hang on. Close your mouth, son. You're gonna catch flies. Anyway. I was thinking about something. Right, my headphones got stuck onto my phone, I think? Somehow that kind of like dragged me down, which was that little yelp you heard earlier. Yeah. Recently I've noticed that, especially kind of like in the afternoons at work, if I need to take a little break, I will literally... Because my office is like in a fairly nice floor, you know, you can see a decent part of the city from it. So when I take my breaks, I don't even take breaks. I essentially get up from my desk, walk over to the window, stare outside for like 30 seconds or 5 seconds or something, and then go back to my desk, sit back down, and get back to work. I'll do that like 2 or 3 times. And every single time I feel like I feel very kind of tiger in a cage-ish. I don't know why. I feel like it helps, but at the same time, I feel like it also just makes me a little bit more anxious. Yeah, thankfully it doesn't use up too much time though, or else you know it might be kind of bad. But it only like I said, it only takes like some 30 seconds at most, so it's not usually too big of a deal. Just dot this with some mesh here for extra breathability. And then we've got the boots. Yeah, I love me a good pair of boots on a character. I should know, I made one with cowboy boots. Oh. I've always really liked, like, those big, huge wrestler boots. You know, the ones that kind of go up to your knees. I've always thought those must be very fun to wear. I feel like they must feel very sturdy. What were those called, like go-go boots or something? I keep hearing the word go-go. Well, I don't keep hearing it, but I've heard the word go-go being used in kind of a fashion context a few times. And I think it just has like a very 70s vibe, but beyond that, I have no idea what it's supposed to mean. It's one of those things, right? Like, you hear about it and you think to yourself, hey, I bet that means that had some special meaning a while ago, or that's just what they call it, but you don't really know where it came from. Oh yeah. By the way, apparently yesterday was the day that they debuted the bikini for the first time in like the 40s or something. I don't remember the exact date, but apparently the bikini's birthday, so to speak, was yesterday. It still messes me up that they actually did name the bikini after Bikini Atoll, the place where they conducted the nuclear bomb experiment. Go-go boots are like a 70s knee-high boot. Oh, I see. But yeah, it's still very weird that they were like, that some French dude was like, aha, yes, I have invented these sexy swimsuits. Let us name it after the place where they dropped an atomic bomb. Hong hong hong. I really just did not understand the thought process behind that. I cannot say there was much of a thought process. Like, I'm not sure why they thought it was appropriate, but I guess they just went for it. Okay. Okay, then from there, the shoes themselves, I think. I don't know, would they just have normal shoes under the boot? Under this kind of like huge thing? It might just be part of the armor as well. There we go. No. I think it would be flat because, right, when you think about armor, right, this person is supposed to be a martial arts artist. So, if I'm thinking about it that way, if I were the one who was in the suit, I would much rather have my toes be a little bit more free, because that way you can, when you kick, you can kind of like, you can kind of kick with the ball of your foot a little bit easier than if it was like completely covered, you know? Yeah, I know that in the karate lessons that I went to, you had two ways of doing a roundhouse kick. The first way was to use this part of the foot, and that was called like the sports roundhouse kick. But the other one, the more traditional one, was to use the ball of the foot, because that concentrates the energy a lot more. Also, the way that you were supposed to do it, especially if you wanted to throw one out really quickly, again, this is kind of like the difference between the sports kick and the traditional kick. So with the traditional kick, you would kind of chamber your leg already kind of like curved, like this, you know? And then you'd like, and just roundhouse kick somebody. But in the sports version, you kind of started chambered the way you'd chamber like a front kick, kind of like this, right? Because like if in a front kick, you're just supposed to kind of like send the bottom half of your foot up as soon as you've chambered it, and then rechamber it immediately. Not only because that kind of increases the force when you have that kind of snapback, but also because it's just safer. Because if you throw your whole leg, then somebody can catch your whole leg, and that'll be a bad scene for you. But essentially, you're supposed to start out like that, and then kind of as you go forward, you're supposed to like make it sideways, so that you end up kicking, so that you end up in a roundhouse kick. This isn't relevant to the drawing at all. It's just something that I remembered. And martial arts is so much fun. I guess you could have like a smaller kind of plate here for the toes, right? I feel like that wouldn't be unreasonable. Yeah, go-go boots are like 70s knee-high boot. That makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes sense at least. Again, not a super fashion conscious guy over here. Yeah, the best fashion decision, to put it into perspective, the best fashion decision I've ever made is to start wearing Hawaiian shirts more often when I go out. You know, it's nice. It's colorful. It goes well with my hair. You know, it's nice. But that's kind of the level that I'm operating at. You know, not to diminish the fashion sense of wearing a Hawaiian shirt. You know, I'm not dumping on people who wear Hawaiian shirts. I'm just saying that from my perspective, the way I feel about it, it's just like me taking a shortcut and it working. I like Hawaiian shirts. I love Hawaiian shirts. Okay. Then maybe just kind of like a boot sole down here. Yeah, it's also a lot of fun to wear heavy boots. I don't know why, but whenever I wear like, I have a big thick pair of winter boots that I bought because I knew that if I went to Canada and I didn't have any kind of winter boots to speak of, I would just eat shit constantly during the winter time. And I'm glad I made that investment because whenever I wear them, I feel friggin' invincible. You know, they're a nice pair of like they're this black pair of steel-toed boots, and they are hyper functional. I love them so much, and I feel like a tank whenever I wear them. Yeah, I don't wear them every day because I feel like that would be bad for my knees. But you know, on rainy days or on snowy days, I do wear them. Oh. This. And then have that whole kind of shebang over here too. Okay, then from here. There we go. Yeah, I think the main things that I remember are like platform shoes from. Speaking on the topic of shoes, I think the main thing that I remember platform shoes from is one episode of Hey Arnold that I remember where they got this, one of the dudes who lived in the building with him, this kind of weird, very short, old guy with, I think, like, red hair or something. They got him a date, and, you know, to kind of boost his confidence, they also got him a pair of platform shoes to kind of wear there. I remember it looking very cute when he kind of like walked off with his date, wearing the huge old platform shoes. It was a good episode. I remember that episode fondly. I don't remember a lot of episodes of Hey Arnold, especially because they were in Spanish. But I do remember the ending to that one, and I thought it was very cute. I don't remember the ending to a lot of things now that I think about it. I keep bringing up these different stories, and I don't remember how most of them end. But at least I remember them a little bit, so I think, you know, that's not too bad. Okay. Go. Alright, now let's see what it looks like without the doll. Nice. Am I missing any detail? I don't think I am, but I think I could add some detail over here with the shoulder. There we go. Nice. Okay then. From there, what else should we do? I feel like it's almost like too wide. Yeah, that somehow feels a little better. This visor's still bugging me, but what can you do, honestly? Alright, let's make sure we haven't missed any details, so let's bring the reference image back in. Looks good, I think. Okay. Then from there, I think I'm gonna take a drink. Okay, so we got the undersuited color right here. That's also what I like about characters with very... How do I put this on? They have like very... I like this character because it has a very straightforward reference. When a character has iconicism applied to it to this extent, it's a lot of fun to draw them as well, because they give you a lot of free reign about how you're supposed to interpret the costume. Like, I interpreted a lot of the costume as motorcycle gear, right? But somebody else might interpret it as, like I said, more kind of tokusatsu kind of Power Ranger armor. And theoretically, both takes are equally valid. I think it's amazing. It's really, it's kind of like how people used back when Among Us was not just a meme, but also kind of like a cultural phenomenon. Well, you know, it's still a cultural phenomenon, but to a kind of lesser extent, when Among Us was just getting big, I remember people kept posting these designs for the crewmates, for crewmate costumes, how they would look like as more kind of realistic spacesuits. And I remember being amazed just at the sheer number of different interpretations there were for them. It was something really amazing to see. I remember I made one of those as well. I remember I made it. It ended up. Bleh. I'm in such a hurry to speak that I forgot my words. It ended up looking a lot like a poncho. Honestly, the kind of idea that I had for it looked a lot like a poncho with some EVA stuff on there. I don't know who decided that EVA should be the name for the kind of gear that allows you to survive in space, but I like it a lot. I feel like it was a good move. Probably has something to do with like environmental suit or something. Okay. Gloves, also got this color here. Yeah, I'm filling it all with the same color now, but we might spruce it up a little bit here and there. You know. Okay, just creeping up there. And I've realized now that I kind of forgot a little bit here. Come on, cooperate with me, buddy. There we go. Okay, take that. Take this here. Actually, no. This would kind of this would go over the hood. We have the kind of like this part here. I love it when you draw a lot of fabric folds and there's just a straight line running through them, so you just get to accordion that thing to high hell. Can you use accordion as a verb? I mean, English is bogus. You can do whatever you want, but I don't know if that's like... I don't know. I think that might be... Yeah. What's more fun than kind of fretting about what is allowed in English and what isn't? You know, more than thinking about what isn't kind of germane in English, is trying to come up with the most grammatically perfect sentence that makes the least amount of sense possible. You know, malicious compliance, if you will, to the English language. I've always found that that's funnier than, you know, calling somebody out for their bad grammar, because you never know why somebody might have bad grammar or stuff. I mean, granted, sometimes I do make fun of my friends for misspelling stuff, but that's just Josh and people. But, you know, if it's like somebody who is learning English, right? Like, English is obviously not their first language. It's not cool to make fun of them. And more so than trying to figure out, you know, oh, is this okay in English? Is this not okay in English? Or, you know, actually, no. What's more fun than being like, oh, is this not okay in English, is kind of worrying about what is okay in English. So like I said, just trying to figure out the worst possible sentence you can make that's still grammatically correct. This is also why English doesn't have a center of language preservation like the French language does. Thank goodness for that, though. Can you imagine trying to preserve a language that's already been warped horrifically for the past 200 or so years? Because you got British English, you got Australian English, you got friggin'... I don't know, there's gotta be at least one more type of English running around out there. But yeah, British, Australian, and American English are the ones that I can think of the most. You know, when you think of like the big trifecta of accents, those are kind of usually what you'd think of first. Okay. What about maybe the shoes are white, but the soles are kind of dark? No, I think the soles will have to be dark. Otherwise, it just doesn't make much sense. To me, at least, you know, it might make sense to somebody else. A man perhaps with more vision than myself would be able to make more sense of that, but I like how it looks right now. Here. Oh, I kind of like this Baja Blast flavor. Yeah, it's very cool when a character is monochromatic because it's very easy to make alternate forms. Okay, that seems good. Alright, and from there... I guess we do have to do the background and the shading, huh? I think the first thing to shade would probably be the cape, since it seems to be the most complicated. That's a bit too dark. Hang on. Bit too light. Let me keep that though. From here. We'll use the wand tool to select this. Alright, there's something funny going on here. There we go. I had the tolerance for the brush set like way too high. Go. But yeah, the history, going back to that whole bikini thing, right? The history of bathing suits is actually pretty funny, because for the longest time, right? Like, especially, I'm saying this from a historical viewpoint. From a historical viewpoint, it's kind of fascinating because, you know, back in the day, you think of like old-timey bathing suits, right? And you think of those like weird singlet-looking things that had like stripes running across them like that. That you'd kind of like see a dude in a straw hat wearing. Pretend that's a mustache. So, you know, you'd see this gentleman from the 1950s who probably works at the racism factory or something, just kind of taking a nice 2-week vacation to the beach, and he'd wear one of these silly little outfits. But apparently back in the day, even these kinds of outfits were supposedly very risque, right? They were like they were like kind of racy even for men. You know, guys weren't supposed to go around with their with their shirts unbuttoned and their, you know, just kind of going around the world half naked. That wasn't the norm back then, but at some point it did become the norm. So I'm wondering how he had that kind of cultural shift, honestly. I'm guessing it happened sometime during the 80s or early 1900s. But yeah, it's crazy to think about. I've always kind of wanted to wear one of those old-timey bathing suits. I feel like they'd be very comfortable. Alright, hang on a second. Something about this doesn't seem right. Okay, that makes slightly more sense. Hang on. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go chase the line the whole way through. Spin this around like this so I can get a better angle on it from my hand. Yeah, I know that there are some companies. I think there is a company actually that does make those historical-looking bathing suits. I think they're called Beefcake or something. But essentially, they specialize in making those kind of old-timey looking, essentially unisex kind of bathing suits. There we go. And go back to the shading section. And there we go. Oh yeah. That reminds me. Recently I've been watching Jerma play through this long. There's this Jerma VOD. Apparently he's recently started playing Saints Row the Third. I keep calling it Saints Row 3. It's apparently Saints Row the Third, which is very pretentious, but whatever. And I remember how much fun I had playing that game the first time I played it. Yeah, I'd never had played a game in the Saints Row franchise, so a lot of the kind of in-jokes flew way over my head. But I still had a great time with it. Yeah, very chaotic game, I will say that. But nevertheless, I had a lot of fun with it. Okay, no, there's something about this that's still bugging me. Oh, I think I know what it is. Alright, hang on. We're gonna have to do some mass kind of rearrangement here. Okay, I think I see what happened here. This was supposed to be a kind of upward crease. And then right here I would have had this kind of whole thing going on. Yeah. I see what happened. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to the Saints Row series anymore. I don't think they're making. I remember that there was like a reboot announcement that they made for it a while back that literally everybody hated it. The dislike ratio was absolutely phenomenal on that video. I just remember that fucking everybody hated that video. I thought it was okay. I didn't understand why they hated it. I think I was like kind of like longtime fans of the series were hoping for something more like Saints Row 2, so they were really mad that it wasn't more like Saints Row 2. I think that's probably what happened. Yeah, I know a lot of people feel very strongly that like Saints Row 2 is like the last good Saints Row game, but I don't feel that. You know, Saints Row 4 was absurdly goofy, but I think like you can still have fun with it. I don't think that it gets in the way of the fun at all. I feel like maybe better than kind of making these cel-shaded lines here. It might be better to try to take a painterly approach to this. And where's my watercolor brush? It's always really funny when a game announcement video has a huge dislike ratio on YouTube, though. I will say that that's always been very funny to me. Can't explain why, but like the idea that this company worked really hard on it and that literally everybody dumped on it immediately is kind of hilarious. I mean, for like big game companies, so not like indie companies, obviously, because you know they need all the support they can get. I sincerely believe that, but it's still like very funny to me that you know this company kind of like revives this old series that nobody's heard of in like for at least what is it now, 5 years, and then literally everybody hates it. Literally everybody hates what you've put out. The height of comedy, honestly. Like I said, I don't get the hate for the new announcement, but I still think that it's funny that that happened. This. There we go. And right here. Okay, cool. Oops, I think I missed a spot back here. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I missed another spot here, too. And with the softer rate, or maybe with the kneaded eraser, even. What the? Hang on. There we go. Now, normally I'd say that you shouldn't go around combining layers like that willy-nilly, but sometimes cutting corners is okay. Hi, good morning. Hey, did you fall asleep, bud? You good? Did you rest well? Yes. Nice. It's always cool to me when people can relax enough in my stream to fall asleep or have a little rest of themselves. It's always nice, you know? I like that my background noise is soothing enough to do that. Okay, here. Here. A friend of mine once said that not all background noise is, you know, some people say that, oh yeah, people only put on my stuff as background noise. But let me tell you from first-hand experience, not all background noise is made the same. You know, it's like, there's different levels of quality to it. And there's different background noise that you use for different tasks. Like, for example, whenever I study, right, I try not to put on too much music because, you know, I kind of get distracted a little bit. But what I would put on is something like an ASMR video or something like that. I don't know why. I tend to have really good results with my studying whenever I listen to ASMR videos. Hold up. What's this part supposed to be? Well, we can fix that up right. We can fix that right up, no problem. Okay, erase that. Back here. Boom. Okay, cool. And from there, we can use the same color for the hood. Layer, fill out this part here. But let me tell you, one of the greatest decisions I've ever made, and I realize this every time I work on a white canvas, is to set up my Clip Studio Paint so that the default canvas has this kind of grayish tone, rather than a pure white tone, because honestly, it just saves your eyes so much strain in the long run. It really is just a completely different game. That does not look like a different color at all. Alright, let's try that again. Okay, cool. And right here we can start differentiating the colors on the knuckles a little bit. I have to be careful to not add too much saturation to it. Otherwise, it'll look a little strange. Let's see over here too. The inside of the gloves I feel would have like a lighter color, you know, to kind of contrast a little bit more. So maybe we can start working on that. Okay, just gonna trace that line right along the edge. And one of the things that I regret about my childhood is that for a while, I lived in a place where you could very easily get access to that probiotic milk stuff, the Yakult. And because I was a very picky eater, I never tried it. I kind of want to know what it tastes like now. I bet it tastes nice. You know, I think it's supposed to be kind of sweet, so I think I would like it. But, you know, picky eaters are as picky eaters do, and I just never ended up trying it while I had the chance. From there, we go. I kind of want a slightly less harsh dark for the kind of bodysuit color, shade color. So many adjectives in that one sentence. Holy, I think we got like 5 of them, or 5 of them, or something. I always like it when I end up adding way too many adjectives to a word. So now it just becomes more of a vibe than a proper grammatically correct sentence. You know, it's like when in a mood board or something you have pictures of what you want, but no no actual prototypes of it. I imagine it's a little bit like that. We'll use a soft eraser a little bit for this part. I'm so glad that I learned to use the soft eraser a little better, because now I can get like these cooler kind of gradient parts here without really using gradients too much, because my god, gradients are for some reason very difficult for me to handle. In the sense that I feel if I use them, it just does not come out as well than if I did it manually. You know, this doesn't apply to everything, I think, but in most cases, I much prefer to just kind of manually do a gradient than to, you know, just edit one of the one sets that are over here. This one will also have some shadow. And I remember a while back, and I don't know why I'm suddenly recalling this, but I remember there was a Chinese animation called The Outcasts or something that got a lot of attention for an episode of it because it was just really well animated. And I remember that one of the reasons it also became popular was because one of the characters, the martial art the characters used, or at least that one of the characters used in that sequence, was, and I kid you not, Tai Chi. Yeah, if you've never heard of Tai Chi, most often these days it's used as a low-intensity exercise by older people. It's very gentle in that way. You're supposed to do it very slowly, and it's supposed to help increase your muscle control to a large extent, and that's why it's also preferred by old people, because, you know, it's low intensity. You don't kind of hurt yourself doing it, but at the same time you kind of get a little bit more muscle control, which is always nice. So Tai Chi is basically known, especially in like among martial artists, as like the old person martial art. But the thing is, what you're essentially doing in Tai Chi are just extremely slowed down kata, or, you know, forms, or whatever you call them. I think that in Korean it's like Umse or something like that. but essentially you're just going through the forms very, very slowly. And again, that's building up muscle control, but in reality, Tai Chi also has some applications as like a proper combat martial art, which is very interesting. I heard some dude on YouTube once put it this way, right? Sometimes a martial art is such that you kind of need to know how to fight before you're able to apply it in a more kind of practical context, right? So, for example, Aikido was one example that he gave. So, there was a dude in his gym who apparently practiced Aikido before trying out MMA. And the dude was like, hey, how come you stopped doing Aikido and you started doing MMA? And the dude was essentially said, oh, I realized that if I wanted to, learn how to make the most of Aikido, I needed to be able to fight normally. Aikido is something that you can't use in a fight unless you already know how to fight. Because yeah, flipping a guy over with his own weight is cool, but unless you have a very specific type of very dumb guy charging at you, it's not going to work out too good. And he kind of realized this, and that's why he also took up MMA, so that he could kind of experience what it was like to use Aikido in a proper combat context. I thought that was really cool. I've always thought that I always remember that from time to time. I think about that, and it really just comes back to the point that there's no wrong way of doing martial arts, unless you hurt yourself, in which case you are kind of doing it wrong. But even then, that's just kind of how you do it. Yeah, it's very boring, but at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is that you have fun. I think that's I think a lot of people think that's like a boring takeaway, but I feel like it's just a good thing. I'd rather have it be a boring takeaway than, having it to literally have to be like some kind of fight to the top. There, we can go on to the knee pads. Those are pretty much going to be all shadow, except for some sections like right here. Using that as a basis here, here, and a little bit over here. Would this shadow make sense for the knee pads? No, it would not. Okay, I've got an idea for it. Although it'll have to be a different color. Okay. That. There we go. That created kind of like that nice soft shadow feel I was going for. Cannot forget the head. Having done this knee pad, though, I kind of want to go back and redo these other parts. Do we have enough time for that? I think we might have enough time for that. All right, let's try that. Okay, so I think the way to do it is that we will copy and paste the shadow layer, so that we don't lose our work, and then just kind of go over one of the other parts of the body that we've done so far. There we go. Careful to avoid the cape. Okay. So I think this is how we do it. I think we fill in first, then go bit by bit. Ah, I missed a spot. Well, that can be arranged. Hang on. Oh, they're still there. That's wacky. Where? Oh, I see. Hang on. And there we go. Now we only have we only have the new shadow layer and the old shadow layer. Just as planned. Okay. Probably should try to use the. Oops. I think I have also accidentally gotten the kneecap layer there. Yeah, I totally did. Hang on. Copy and paste. There we go. Perfect. Okay, I was thinking about something. I should drink some water. Right, the doll itself. Okay, so we're gonna put the shading somewhere around. The light source, we're gonna put it somewhere around. There. Okay. Then we rasterize. Did I copy and paste it already? Yes, I did. Okay, then we rasterize this layer. Remove the ruler. And then just tuck it away where we can see it. Okay. Enough messing around. We like to have fun here, right? Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing that the main sources of shadow. Okay, so it'll be completely shaded here, but kind of around here near the abs is where there will be some. Brush density even lower. All right, what we might do this then. Go back to hard eraser. No, that it's not skin tight. You wouldn't be able to see the abs like that. All right, I think the way to do it. Okay, maybe like this will work. Okay, there we go. And from there... Yes, okay. Okay, now I think we're getting it. Corner here. And over here. Okay. I like this shading style because it looks good, but I also don't like it because it forces me to use my brain in new and interesting ways that have never been proposed to before. You know, I've had a long day at work, staring at a screen, thinking about numbers all day. I don't come here to think, alright? I come here to shut my brain off and spew a miracle right live on camera. That's the rice grind set, if you will. The rising set. Wow, that was quite a combination of syllables that I just spit out. Let's not do that again. And then we can hit it with a soft eraser around here. Alright, what if, right, we use the blending tool right here. And made this part kind of like that color. It's still not quite dark enough. Hang on. Where's the blending tool? Okay, how about instead we use the wand tool for this part? Then we do a little bit of a... Okay, so we want this part basically to be kind of cordoned off for the breastplate there. And over here we have that part. Okay. I know how we're doing this. We go to gradient erase. Yeah, the one exception to my kind of being this uncomfortable with gradients is when it comes to gradient erase, because that one you can really do some fun stuff with. Increase the density and hardness. Nah. Let's go again with a gradient erase. Let's see if that does anything for it. Okay, I think that's something. I think we've got something there. All right, let's try that again then. Let's keep going with that style. So the main places where light would hit would be here, around the neck area. And that'll kind of just blend it down. Okay, there. Okay, cool. Then from there, I think we did the manga or the gradient erase. Yeah, there's one here called the manga. which I think is supposed to create a new halftone layer, which is interesting. Okay, I got an idea of how to do this. Whoop. Hold up. Go back to gradient. Deselect this kind of area over here. And this was the part that we wanted gradient to erase. And some soft erasing right here. And actually, we might want to tone these with like a slightly darker version of the light tone. Just a slightly lighter version. Around here, maybe? Yeah, so they don't stand out as much. Yeah, this part here, for example, wouldn't make much sense, but if I use a soft eraser over here, then maybe that would make a little bit more sense. Okay, then we'll also do a little bit of small erasing, like right here, and right here for the chest. Okay, just get the arm out of the way there. And go for it. There we go. That looks cool. I like that. Alright, then we can go with the hard eraser again. Okay. Here. Moving right along. But loose and fancy free. Have fun, come share it with me. Don't want to share the load. No, that doesn't make sense. Hang on. Okay, there we go. You take it, you know best. Hey, I've never seen the sun come up in the west. I've never actually seen the Muppets movie, I don't think. I remember seeing a Muppet movie, but I don't think I remember seeing the Muppet movie. Okay. There. I think we'll do the same thing we kind of did for the neck with the arm here. I know the Muppet Christmas Carol is supposed to be very good. There. Okay. We'll use the colors from back here for this part here too. Here. There we go. Okay, then from there, what should we do? Okay, I'm gonna select this part here so I can just kind of slightly kind of like lighten it towards the end so it's not quite as drastic when it comes out through the other side. Wait, no, I need to make the other side more drastic is what I need to do. Okay, there we go. Now all that's left is the yellow armor and the boots. And the background. Yeah, I think we got enough time for all that. 30 minutes. We can do this easy in 30 minutes. Okay. Oh my god. It's finally happening. Wait, this is so exciting. Hang on. Okay, so we gotta get the foreground to background. Okay, so foreground to transparent, make this the foreground, so like that. Oh my god, we're finally doing it. We're finally drawing a perfect sphere. Hold up, I've got... This needs some careful maneuvering. So we're going to use the soft eraser all the way up here. It's going to polish this dome up real nice. And for the shading, we'll use slight bits of this color. This is very exciting for me. I don't know why I got so excited about drawing a sphere. It's just one of those things that you kind of learn as a beginner artist skill, and you're like, I'm never gonna use this. And then one day you have to draw like something that's almost perfectly spherical, and you're like, my time has come. Kind of blending it together there. Okay, then from there. I need the turnip pen? I need something with texture. Texture pen. Blend that out. I like how this came out. I just like the opportunity to draw shiny things. Bump up the part here. Noise. Right here, we'll make sure that we don't get any of the eyes, which I think I'm also going to shade a little bit. There we go. It's very subtle, but you can just barely kind of see the hints of eyes beneath the mask. Why is it so orange now? Color stretch. Okay, brush size. Reduce that drastically. There we go. I think I'm going to do something similar for this part here, for the kind of breastplate. Okay, so just keep this part out of it. Gradient in there. Gradient erase. This part here. Perfect. For some reason, this reminds me a little bit of Bionicle designs. The time for Bionicles was definitely. I definitely wasn't around for the, or I think I might have been around for Bionicles, but like I wasn't like interested in them. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know if they had Bionicles in where I lived during the time they were popular. I don't think they did. I've always kind of been interested in the designs. Again, with the kind of like white, shiny bit right here. Blend that up. Outward. And there we go. From there, we're gonna just we're gonna leverage gradients quite a bit here. Again, it just looks nice. I like the way that it looks with this guy. Like right here, for example. Transparent, so boom. And boom. Back here too. This also reminds me a lot of the time that I made that Metabee fan art. So a lot of the same principles are coming back. God, I remember that one was really rough for some reason, though. Okay. Gradient. Then we can just go erase this part right here. Go, and then blend that out. I'm gonna need way more. A much bigger blending thing. There we go. Here. Okay. I feel like I need to like lightly erase most of the a little bit of the shading here, or at least change the tone of it a little bit. It's not nearly so garish, but ooh. No, decreasing the saturation is not the answer. I'll figure something out once we get in for a little bit later on in the shading stage. For the moment, let's just kind of keep doing what we've been doing. Here. There we go. We'll also add a little less shading here and no, that doesn't seem right. Also, I'm noticing now that I have some kind of weird shadow right here. Okay, no, that's the wrong layer. Okay, I've been on the right layer, so that's fine. Maybe I need to boost up the tolerance a little bit. There we go. Not sure how that error happened. It must have been when I was like doing the shade for this shading here. Okay. Anyway, now let's do the other leg. Then we have to do the straps as well. I nearly forgot about those. Alright. Key tool, here we go. There we go. And possibly kind of a soft erasing up here. Nice, okay. From there. Okay. Perfect. And then from there, here, we can fill out this little empty spot here with that kind of darker orange. Leveraging gradients is fun and easy. Yeah, that reminds me that today I was trying to explain something to a colleague at work, and I word for word said lying is fun and easy, and they gave, and I think I forgot I wasn't on the internet for a second. They gave me such a look before I quickly had to clarify. You know, that's not good though. Like, we don't want that, and they were like, "Oh, okay, he's joking." But yeah, I'm pretty good at like measuring people's how do I call these, like, power levels, I guess. Like I'm pretty good at gauging like the kind of jokes that people will and won't take. You know, I try to err on the side of caution, but for the most part, I feel like I've got a pretty good grip on it. But sometimes I get my calibrations wrong. Over here as well. Okay, there we go. These two can probably just be full, this kind of darker orange color. Okay, so right here we'll select this section right here. Bring that up. Select this section here. Gradient that up this way. All right, perfect. We've got most of the we've got the metal. Okay, almost all the metal plating. I missed the spot right back here. I need to tighten up the soft eraser so that I can get a pretty good, like, part here. Okay, cool. Then after that... I just wanted to have a little bit of a cleaner separation of the shoulder there. Okay, from there, I want to add some detail here. Gotta lower the tolerance, need to remember that. There we go. Okay. There. I think we need to do the shoes, and then we need to do the background, and then we were pretty much done. Oh yeah, and the I should probably do the tights first. Hang on. select the color gamut for these guys here. Oops, wrong layer. Yeah, I caught that early. Okay. Now with the soft eraser, I'll use that up a little bit. Same idea for most of these. Do some scratches with the hard eraser and then use the soft eraser. There. What the? Oh, I think I left out the hand shading for this other one. Okay, we can bring that back soon enough, though. Okay, eraser here, 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 all over here. And then we use the soft eraser to kind of even that out. Is that everything? I think so. Well, except this part down here, though. Yeah, that kind of chaps here. Okay, those we can attack like this. No, that looks kind of weird. Alright, so I think the way we do this is actually maybe to just completely fill these with a darker color, and then just have an even darker color to just kind of highlight them. There we go. Okay. Alright, cool. I think that's almost everything except the shoes. These shoes. Ooh, these shoes. Yeah, this isn't going to be like a super high effort shoe, I don't think. Just basic boots. There's not a whole lot you can do with them. And these parts, we can just use the darker kind of parts like this to give them a little bit of texture. You know, rough them up a little bit, make them look like boots. the size for that. Okay. Should I do the shading on the cloak? I feel like it looks nice without it. Oh, nah. I gotta do it. It shouldn't take too long. It's just like a couple here and there. Yeah, it's not super complicated. Whoops. He says as he accidentally spills the whole paint bucket. Okay, cool. I think that's the person pretty much done. Now we just need to do the background. And I'm not sure what kind of background would be good for this. I think I'm just gonna go for a texture. How about some leopard print, huh? Pab's going ham on detail. Yeah. Oh, crunchy wrists. Crunchy wrists. Okay, I'm gonna get up a little bit. Let that blood flow. Them hips. I feel like my camera is small enough that I can just drag it up with me. I can just hold it up while I'm standing. You can't see it, but I'm like doing stupid stuff, like I'm putting it close to my head. Alright. Alright, enough of that. Okay. Okay, so we got patterns, we got effects. Yeah, let's just put this vigilante against a wooden grain. I feel like that would be very tasteful. Yeah. Oh goodness. Rice. Hello, Haradro. How you doing? Hydrate. Thank you. How you doing? We're almost wrapping up here, actually. I'm just figuring out what kind of background I should give this guy. Vibin', hell yeah. You know, I heard this term on Snapchat. I have a Snapchat. I don't really use it for anything. I use it to keep up with a couple of my friends. That's about it. But for some reason, they have a filter that calls Wednesday Hump Day. You know, because it's like in the middle. It's like in the middle of the weekdays. You know, it's like the hump in the middle of it. And I gotta tell you, I heard a lot of bad names for Wednesday, but that's gotta be one of the most worst ones out there. I feel like that's bad. I feel like that's just a really bad name for Wednesday. I feel like you should call it something else. Sussiest. Yeah. Yeah, basically. Alright, hang on. Oh, right. Okay, now I remember how I had to do this. If your has not yet been downloaded from the cloud, then load that sucker up. Okay. So you see, first we put this one, preferably not on top of their head. Alright, hang on. Here's how we do it. First we organize our proper kind of layers here. Then we'll take that and okay, then we add confusion. Download that sucker. Put that underneath the kind of shock one. This reminds me of that Pokemon Muck. I think that's by design as well, but okay, then we merge these two. Okay, so no, okay, yeah. Can we merge these two? Yes, we can. Love it when a plan comes together. All right. Okay. Okay. I've got an idea. Okay, so we create a selection from this layer. And I forgot how to do this. I think it's like Gaussian blur. We gotta rasterize this first. So, all right. So select this. Select the parts that you want to keep sharp. Then invert the selection so that you've selected everything else. Then hit it with that Gaussian blur filter once you rasterize it. You know, at a decent strength, obviously, but then you kind of keep getting bigger. You kind of keep hitting it with more and more intense Gaussian blur as it kind of goes out. Until eventually, it's just very, very blurry. Oh wait, hang on, I forgot to do the inverted selection. Yeah, really juice it with that whole Gaussian blur. And then we can do the blending. So, how does the blend tool work? Because I feel like I've recently gotten better at using the blend tool, but it still mystifies me when it behaves sometimes. You know, I'd like to be able to use it on with my head instead of with prayer. Oh, I guess this is what I get for taking shortcuts to power. Oh wait, no, there's actually a blur tool, isn't there? Hang on. Oh yeah, this is what the doctor ordered. Okay, and we kind of want to move this in such a way that it kind of aligns with that. Okay, I think then we can copy and paste them and then merge them. Then I'm going to use tonal correction, gradient map. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Folks, I think we've got a winner. Alright. That being said, I kind of want to use this same blur. Okay, so if that's how that works, right? I kind of want to put a secondary blur right over top of the code a little bit so that it's kind of, I'll put the a second one of these, and then just blur that as well. Okay, and then now we do the gradient, the what do you call it, the gradient map. Look at that. Man, I love it when I do something, when I plan by the seat of my pants and it all just works out. I love it when that happens. It makes me feel like a winner. Jeez. Okay. Then, okay. Copy paste that. Then to kind of differentiate it a little bit, we'll hit it off with another gradient map. Ooh, this might be interesting to kind of contrast. Oh, that's kind of... I like this effect here, but this is just way too dark. Well, it is kind of stylish as well, isn't it? You know, it's got a certain kind of charm to it. It feels like a graphic on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. That's what it feels like to me. You know, I like how you can especially really clearly tell apart the belt there. Alright, let's see what else we got though. Okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, where's that? Okay, this goes hard as hell, but okay, where's that one that I said looked like a Yu-Gi-Oh card? I've got an idea for it. Yeah, this one. Okay. And what if we kind of edited the color itself? Okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, I'm really liking this. I don't know why, there's something so crunchy about it that I really love. Not quite feeling it though. I don't know why, but there's something about this that I'm not wholly satisfied with. So I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna put that in another folder. Copy and paste it so that we have a backup, and then we merge that, and then we're gonna apply yet another gradient map to it. Ain't I such a stinker? Okay, let's see. Yeah, sometimes I feel bad about using gradient maps because it feels like I'm cheating, but at other times I remember how much color theory can kiss my ass. So that the feeling goes away very quickly after that. I am interested in making color in gradient maps, so I am interested in trying to make more of them. You know, to kind of expand the range that I have. You know, even if I am a one-trick pony, I want to have a vast depth of the trick. Alright, I like that. Yeah, like I said, it reminds me a lot of like a Yu-Gi-Oh! The art for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. I cannot for the life of me explain why. I think it's because of the background. I think the background reminds me a lot of the kind of art on the back of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. You know, the kind of like weird swirly pattern it's got. Let's sign this sucker and get on and get a move on. Okay. Alright, and... Alright, that's Petrichor the Hunter done. Excuse me, Petrichor the Golden Hunter. Okay, and save to the art folder. Perfect. Alright, I'm really happy with how that came out. Let's go back to the just chatting screen. Help! I'm in the corner, stuck between the bed and the desk. Ah! Alright, yeah, no, just kidding. Alright, after this we got another Arch Fight stream on Friday, and after that we're going back and playing some more Valhalla on Sunday. I'm looking forward to that. I did enjoy my time with Valhalla, so I'm interested in what it's going to be like after, you know, after cooling down after a week. You know, we had a lot of fun with the dogs, but man, some of the stuff that got said on there was just plain weird. In a good way, in a fun way. Alright, yeah. Everybody have a nice rest of your evening, and I will see you all later. Bye.